I'm not picking up like bread and eggs. The shelves are empty, like the world's going to end or whatever. But I'll have some stuff because I know Sunday I'm not going to be able to get anywhere. Like Sunday, just going to be watching football all day and not be able to move. And so got to have something in the place because it sounds like Sunday's going to be a mess.
Yeah, it sounds pretty bad. Someone's already offering to fill my entire freezer with meat for a spot in the Guillotine League next year. Wow. I mean, we could go back to taking bribes. It's really just a bribe for me. Can we all agree that we all get one bribe?
Oh, jeez. I don't know. Drew and I have won the league and back-to-back. Drew won it last year.
It's crazy.
Congrats, by the way, to everybody that was in our Guillotine League. Thanks for taking part in that. But I did win. The owner of the team that was called, quote, Meat Beater, finished second behind me. I did win. Thank you very much.
The text line said, why didn't you pay to have it delivered? Great question. It was $100 additional to have it delivered.
You just got done complaining how much a pain in the ass it was. Seems like it might have been worth it.
Well, to go to Costco was, but the actual putting it in the truck, taking it out, unboxing it, and plugging it in wasn't. Yeah. And I figured for that $100, I could put $100 worth of stuff in it.
Yeah, there you go.
It felt like picking it up was worth the effort. Was my opinion on it. What kind of things you like in the freezer? What kind of quick freezer things you like, Gold?
You were right about one.
Mini
mozzarella sticks definitely are a good frozen thing.
Corn dogs are good.
The classic frozen pizza, like a little Tombstone frozen pizza. That's the brand I usually get. The Tombstone solid.
I went with the Costco Detroit style pizza this time for frozen pizza.
Okay, we'll talk more about this throughout the show today. Detroit, what's the must-have in the freezer during the winter storm? But also, some people are worried. If their power goes out, they're not going to be able to use. They're not. The frozen stuff is a problem. You need to have some stuff that you can just have. That's why people buy the bread, right? But if you lose power, do you have a generator?
I don't.
You struck me as someone that would already have a generator.
I'm not saying I'm anti-generator. Mm-hmm. Give me time, but I don't currently own one. No.
Yeah.
I thought about one of those $300 anchor things that you have to charge for a full ass day, but they've got 1,000 hours of charging in them.
So it keeps your cell phone charged and laptop charged
and kids' iPads if we're stuck in no power, all that stuff. Yeah.
There you go. We'll talk more about the upcoming storm and everything. 1 o'clock hour today, Fan Club Friday. Dana Wright from KMBZ is going to join us. I'm sure they'll be talking plenty of weather. Maybe we'll get her to help us out getting a meteorologist on the show as well. We should just call up Brian Busby.
Oh yeah, she's got good inroads to the local TV community.
Mm-hmm. Let's get a latest weather update at 1 o'clock today.
We should have, as part of a trade-off for, I'm going to go do the Casey End Zone show over at Fox 4 after the show. I should have, as a trade-up, been I need to borrow one weatherman. I know that this is their Super Bowl, but I need to borrow one weatherman for 8 minutes on the show, please. Next time, man. Next time. I was thinking about the Coach of the Year stuff, and not to get back, and to avoid the debate that is, I think he should have way better odds. We all agree. He should have way better odds to be NFL's Coach of the Year, but that's also not how the award works, and it's not how the award is going to work this year. But instead, the way I was thinking about Andy Reid is this the single best coaching job he has done for the Chiefs in his career here? Here are some of the ones that I think are in competition, and then we can talk about the things he's accomplished. The year Mahomes got hurt on the quarterback sneak and had to go multiple weeks and manage that injury for the entire season to go on to win the Super Bowl. Then there was the first year of Mahomes in which he went for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns in his very first year as a starter in the NFL. Went toe-to-toe with the New England Patriots that year, but came up short. And then I think you could make an argument for the Alex Smith year that was the very first year Andy Reid was here. They traded for Alex Smith. The team was the number 1 overall pick the year before, and he made them a playoff team in the very first year after being the number 1 overall pick in what was the single worst year in this franchise's history. I think that this one rivals all of those when you start looking at all the things he had to overcome.
Well, this year, I mean, it's obvious. We know they had the toughest schedule, I think, in Andy Reid's tenure as the head coach in Kansas City. Every year they're in first place, so you're going to play that first place schedule. This year, the first place schedule actually played out like that. It wasn't. Sometimes you have a year where first place schedule, but another team you're expected to play ends up not being as good as you thought. For the most part, everybody lived up to what you thought they were going to be. And if a team didn't, you played them early enough. Like Cincinnati, nobody thought they'd be sitting here at 8 wins. People thought they were a 12-plus win team. But you played them early in the year when people still thought that.
Yeah.
Baltimore obviously was on your schedule.
And it's still not a bad team. They're near the playoffs.
Right. I mean, they faced what we think will be every single AFC playoff team. And actually, no matter what happens this weekend, they have faced, unless the Dolphins get in, they would have faced every single AFC playoff team. And 2 of them twice. They also had 3 games in 11 days this year. They had their number 1 and number 2 receiver out very early on in the season. We know their number one running back went down. The left tackle situation speaks for itself and how they've had to navigate that as a head coach. The number 2 corner, Jalen Watson's been out, although we'll get to some good news, it sounds like, that's coming out this morning in just a bit. So all of that put together, yeah, I mean, I think this is right up there. If it's not the toughest, it's certainly making a strong case, especially if they complete the job, right? Part of this being the most impressive coaching job is still completing the task. And I'm not saying that for it to be your best year, it always has to result in the Super Bowl, but it's hard to surpass those that end up in Super Bowl runs. It puts himself already in that category to comp it with, the 2 Super Bowl years you were referencing as well. I get what you mean about the first year as a head coach coming off of the disaster. I think that one's always going to be overlooked just because that wasn't when this run really started for a lot of people, even though immediately the day Andy Reid walked in, this franchise changed forever.
It did, and for a lot of good reasons. But that first year, I mean, it is one of his most impressive. Like, it's in the top 3 for me if I was ranking them out for best seasons under Andy Reid. And yeah, I'm trying not to just be like, well, the 3 years he won the Super Bowl. That's it. Because I think some coaching jobs are easier than others. Like that first Super Bowl, you got to get through it. That's a breakthrough. The second one kind of felt easy. They were the best team the entire year. They didn't suffer some mass amount of injuries. They got to just go about the motions. Win a bunch of games, win the Super Bowl, wash their hands of it. Didn't feel hard, right? This just felt hard. They've had to deal with left and right tackle. They've had to deal with injuries. We can talk about, like you mentioned, Jalen Watson, one of many they have had to overcome. Their defense wasn't as stout. It's the worst year of Patrick Mahomes' career. Now, and maybe that's an argument against, that you can't have had your best coaching year when Patrick Mahomes is having his worst statistical year as a pro under your watch. But in a lot of ways, doing that simultaneously while winning at least 15 games, doesn't that make it even more impressive of a coaching job? Patrick Mahomes had his worst statistical year and you still won 15 games. It didn't stop you from the inevitable prize, which is winning football games. Toughest division or second toughest division in football.
NFC North ran away with that one, I think.
Yeah, that race has been run. The NFC North is the toughest division in football, but the toughest division in the AFC, 3 playoff teams in it. Right? I mean, 1 laughing stock, but 3 playoff teams to go in there. Maybe someone's going to make the argument for the North because